the seamstress who stitched a family back together. Welcome to Hearthside Stories 25, where every stitch, every tear, and every second chance comes to life. Pull up a chair, settle in, and let your heart listen, because here, we tell the stories that warm your soul and remind you what it means to be human. This is the story of a seamstress who stitched a home back together, one thread at a time. Stay till the end and find out how. In a quiet, working-class neighborhood in Savannah, Georgia, the world still moves a little slower. The streets are lined with modest houses, shaded by crepe myrtles and aging oak trees draped in Spanish moss. Children ride rusty bikes up cracked sidewalks. Neighbors wave without words, and everyone knows who makes the best cornbread on the block. At the end of Magnolia Street, in a weathered cottage wrapped in ivy, lives Miss Etta Green. Miss Etta is 65, soft-spoken, and regal in her quiet way. She wears thick-rimmed glasses and cotton house dresses with neat floral prints. Her hair is always wrapped in a patterned scarf that somehow matches her outfit, and her hands, though wrinkled, move with the precision of an artist. Once a sought-after seamstress in downtown Savannah, Miss Etta now mends clothes from her front porch, a wooden deck that creaks when she rocks in her chair. A faded "God bless this home" sign hangs beside the door, and an old Singer's sewing machine sits just inside the front room, catching the late afternoon light. Every morning, she brews a pot of chicory coffee and sits at her window, sipping and watching. It's a ritual. Not much changes in this part of town, and she prefers it that way. She mends what's torn. Clothes, yes, but also time, memory, and sometimes broken silences. Her radio plays Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong, and the scent of lavender oil and fresh starch fills the house. It's the same scent that once clung to her late husband, Harold's shirts, the one she still keeps folded in a drawer she never opens. Widowed for nearly 12 years, Miss Etta has grown used to the stillness. She speaks less these days, not out of sadness, but out of comfort. People pass by her porch and wave. She nods, a quiet fixture, a whisper in the corner of a bustling world. But one Tuesday morning, while pouring sugar into her coffee, something unusual catches her eye. A U-Haul truck pulls into the driveway of the vacant house next door, the one that had sat empty for nearly 8 months. Two figures step out, a tall man, maybe late 30s, and a teenage girl with headphones and a ponytail, dragging her feet like she'd rather be anywhere else. They don't wave. They don't look around. Just unload boxes in silence. Miss Etta watches from behind her lace curtains, curiosity stirred for the first time in months. She squints at the girl, something in her posture. Closed off, angry, like the world owed her something and she knew she wouldn't get it. Miss Etta doesn't say a word, just folds the hem of a boy's school uniform shirt and mutters to herself. That child's carrying something heavy. The jazz softly plays in the background as Miss Etta returns to her stitching. But now, her eyes drift back to the window more often. Something was about to shift on Magnolia Street, and deep down, Miss Etta felt it. The Thompsons weren't like the usual families on Magnolia Street. They didn't wave when they passed, didn't hang wreaths on their doors, and didn't sit on porches in the evening breeze like everyone else. They just existed. The man, David Thompson, was tall, broad-shouldered, but worn out in the eyes. He moved like a man dragging invisible weights. 2 jobs, folks whispered. HVAC by day, late-night shifts at the docks by night. Folks said he was trying to build back a life after his wife walked out on him. No one really knew the details, but everyone knew the ache of an empty side of the bed. And then there was his daughter, Riley. 15, hair always pulled back tight, eyes darting like she didn't trust anyone. She wore black hoodies, even in the Georgia heat, and hardly spoke a word to anyone. Her music blasted through oversized headphones, and she walked like the world had done her wrong. Miss Etta had seen troubled teens before. She knew the signs. The scowl that wasn't real anger, the silence that wasn't pride, the restlessness that came from a heart too full and a soul too empty. She watched Riley from her porch as the days went by. The girl walked alone to school, head down, came home late, slammed the door. Windows rattled sometimes at night from yelling. Miss Etta didn't judge. She just watched and hummed. But one Thursday afternoon, something shifted. Riley came home early, her backpack slung halfway off her shoulder. Her face was tight, eyes red. Another fight with her dad, most likely. The usual argument no one wins. A father doing too much to be present, and a daughter aching for presence over provision. As Riley stormed up the front walk, she tripped over the sidewalk edge, lost her balance, and crashed into Miss Etta's porch rail. Her elbow hit the edge of the sewing basket Miss Etta had placed out to sort buttons and thread. Spools flew everywhere. Buttons scattered like rain. Fabric flapped in the breeze. Riley froze. Her mouth opened, maybe to curse, maybe to apologize, but Miss Etta just sat still, one brow lifted, glasses perched at the end of her nose. She slowly stood up, stepped down from the porch, and began gathering the scattered pieces. Riley stood there, awkward, unsure. "Don't just stand there like a scarecrow, child," Miss Etta said, not unkindly. "Buttons don't pick themselves up." Riley blinked, then knelt down. They picked up in silence. "I didn't mean to," the teen finally muttered. "I know," Miss Etta replied, her tone calm, seasoned. "Anger don't have to knock over baskets to be heard, but sometimes it does." Riley didn't respond. Miss Etta looked at her fully then, really looked. "You mad at the world? Or just mad that the people supposed to love you don't show it the way you need?" The question sat heavy between them, like wet laundry on a line. Riley's jaw tightened. "You don't know me." Miss Etta smiled faintly. "Child, I don't have to know your name to recognize your weight. You wear it loud." Riley stood, grabbed her bag, and stomped off without another word. But the next day, Miss Etta left a note on her porch railing. "You dropped a piece of your hoodie thread. It's waiting when you are." That afternoon, Riley came back. She didn't speak, just sat on the bottom porch step while Miss Etta sewed quietly. Jazz floated through the window. And for the first time in a long time, Riley stayed still. The first few times Riley came back, she didn't say much. She just sat on the porch steps, hoodie up, eyes darting from her phone to the street. Sometimes she stayed 5 minutes, sometimes an hour. Miss Etta never asked why. She didn't need to. She just let the silence breathe. On the third day, Miss Etta handed Riley a square of denim and a needle threaded with golden brown string. "You got 10 fingers. Let's see if you can use them." Riley looked confused. "What is this?" "It's a patch," Miss Etta said, still sewing. "Old jeans. The kind people usually throw out. But with the right stitch, you can turn what's worn into something new." Riley scoffed. "You want me to sew? I want you to try. Don't got to be pretty. Just got to be yours." So Riley held the cloth like it was something foreign. Her stitches were crooked, wild, and uneven. But she didn't stop. Every day after school, she returned. Still quiet, still guarded. But with each stitch, her shoulders softened. Miss Etta showed her how to thread needles, not ends, and follow the rhythm of the fabric. And between each lesson, a little more of Riley's world unraveled, not in chaos, but in honesty. One afternoon, Miss Etta reached for a spool, and Riley asked, out of nowhere, "Do you miss him? Your husband?" Miss Etta paused, smiled, and stared into the yard. "Every day," she said, "but I don't let the missing swallow the living." Riley looked down at her lap. "My mom left us. A year ago. She said she couldn't handle it anymore. My dad, he just works. Always gone. It's like I live with a ghost." Miss Etta didn't rush in with advice. She simply reached over, brushed a loose thread off Riley's sleeve, and said, "Sometimes the people who love us forget how. Doesn't mean we stop needing love, or giving it." The next week, Miss Etta gave Riley a project. A small, faded quilt square made of old church dresses and worn flannel. "I've been adding to this quilt for years. Every person who's ever needed a safe space left a piece on it. I think it's time you added yours." Riley stared at it, her throat tight. She took a piece from the inside of her hoodie, cut a small square from the frayed inner lining, and sewed it onto the quilt. "Ugly little thing," she said, blinking fast. Miss Etta grinned. "It's perfect." Days blurred into weeks. Riley began talking more about school, the teacher she hated, the kids who whispered behind her back, about the loneliness of dinner in silence, about missing a mom who stopped calling, and about the ache in her chest that she didn't know how to name. And Miss Etta, she just kept sewing, kept listening, kept showing up. And without even realizing it, Riley had found something she hadn't had in a long time. A safe place, a steady hand, a quiet kind of love. It was a late Saturday afternoon, the kind where the light hangs golden on porch rails and the air hums with the promise of summer. Miss Etta and Riley were sitting side by side on the porch, a small table in front of them covered with cloth scraps, mismatched buttons, and threads in every shade of blue. They were building something together. A quilt. Not just any quilt, but one made from Riley's own story. A square from her elementary school field trip t-shirt. A patch from her mom's old apron, left behind in a drawer. A sleeve from the hoodie Riley always wore, even in summer. A piece of her father's old work shirt, torn at the elbow, stiff with time. Each square, a memory. Each stitch, a step toward healing. Miss Etta showed her how to connect the pieces gently. Don't force the fabric. Let it meet you halfway, she'd say. That's when a car pulled up. A dark blue pickup. David. He hadn't expected to see his daughter there. Certainly not smiling. He stood beside the porch quietly, unsure if he was interrupting something sacred. Riley didn't even notice him at first. She was laughing, actually laughing, at Miss Etta trying to thread a needle without her glasses. And in that moment, David realized how long it had been since he'd seen her face unguarded. Since she wasn't scowling, sighing, or locked behind her bedroom door. He cleared his throat. Riley looked up. Her smile faltered, and she reached for her phone. But Miss Etta, ever calm, didn't let the moment slip. She looked up at David, her eyes deep with a kind, weathered truth. "Sir," she said slowly, her voice low but firm, "your daughter is worth being heard, not just raised." David opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Miss Etta continued, "You give her food, shelter, school. That's good. But children need more than what keeps them alive. They need what makes them feel seen and safe." David stood there, the weight of her words settling on his chest like a wool coat in summer. He nodded once, swallowed hard. I didn't know how to talk to her anymore," he said quietly. "Everything I say feels like the wrong thing." Miss Etta nodded. "So stop speaking to correct her. Start speaking to know her." That night, something changed. David knocked gently on Riley's bedroom door before dinner. She opened it cautiously, headphones still around her neck. "Can I sit?" he asked. She shrugged but didn't say no. They sat on opposite ends of her bed, the air thick with awkward silence. "I saw the quilt," he said. "That was my old work shirt, wasn't it?" Riley looked down. "Yeah, for when you used to pick me up from practice. Before everything fell apart," he finished. They sat quietly. David reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small swatch of fabric, plaid, worn at the edges. "This was the inside pocket for my favorite jacket. Thought maybe you'd want to add it." Riley stared at it. "You kept that old jacket?" He nodded. "Hadn't worn it in years. But I guess I didn't want to throw it out. Reminded me of simpler times." Riley didn't smile, but something in her eyes softened. They talked for nearly an hour. Not about everything, but enough. Enough to start again. Outside, across the street, Miss Etta sat in her rocker. Jazz played softly from her window. She sipped her tea and stitched the final square onto her own quilt. And she smiled because she knew something torn had begun to mend. Summer turned to early fall. The trees along Magnolia Street rustled with a golden hush, and the porch lights came on a little earlier each evening. In Miss Etta's front yard, a clothesline now fluttered, not with laundry, but with quilt squares, sun-drying in the breeze like tiny flags of healing. The porch had become something more than a quiet corner. It was now a sanctuary, a workshop of second chances. Riley still came by, but she no longer slouched in silence. She greeted Miss Etta with a hug, brought new fabric scraps, shared updates from school. "Guess what?" she said one day, eyes glowing. "I got a B in history. Mr. Gonzalez said I actually showed up, like, mentally." Miss Etta laughed, her eyes crinkling. "Told you your head had more than headphones in it." But the biggest surprise came one brisk October afternoon. David showed up carrying something large and awkward under his arm, wrapped in a bedsheet and tied with string. "Can I show you something?" he asked Riley, who looked up from the porch step, a needle mid-thread in her hand. He untied the sheet, revealing a wooden sign, carved and sanded smooth. Painted in delicate letters were the words, "Stitch to Stay." A porch for peace and pieces. I built it, he said. Thought maybe we could hang it on Miss Etta's porch. For everything this place has been to us. Riley blinked hard, her voice small. You made that. David shrugged. You sew. I carve. Guess we both fix things with our hands. Miss Etta, standing in the doorway, covered her mouth. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Riley stepped closer, looked up at her, and smiled. You don't have to say anything, Miss Etta. You've already done everything. A year later, there's a photo framed on Miss Etta's wall. It's Riley, standing proudly beside her quilt, now fully finished. It had been entered into a citywide arts showcase, and won first prize for youth artisan work. But the real reward wasn't the ribbon. It was the people who came up to Riley afterward, classmates, teachers, even strangers, telling her how moved they were by her story, by her pain, her strength, her stitches. That day, she looked out at the crowd and said, "This quilt isn't perfect. Some of the seams are crooked, but so is life. The point isn't perfection, it's persistence. This quilt helped me find my voice and helped me forgive." She paused, and it all started on a porch with an old woman who just listened. Back on Magnolia Street, life goes on. The Thompsons eat dinner together now. They talk, laugh, disagree, but they do it together. And Miss Etta, she's still sewing, still humming jazz. But now, there's always someone on her porch. Riley, David, neighborhood kids, even folks who come by just to talk and leave feeling lighter. She doesn't call herself a healer. She just says, everybody's torn somewhere. I just help them find the thread. Miss Etta rocks in her chair. Riley sews beside her. David leans against the rail, sipping sweet tea. 3 lives, once frayed, now stitched together by kindness. And somewhere in the background, Louis Armstrong's voice hums. What a wonderful world. Thank you for spending time with us here at Hearthside Stories 25, where every story is a reminder that love still heals, hope still restores, and home is never too far away. Until next time, keep your heart open and your story burning bright.